Today on the podcast, we are ending our Women's Entrepreneurial series with our special guest for today. So stay tuned. It's going to be another great interview, another great podcast, because Frame on 8 podcast starts right about now. Get your mind right. Get your mind right. It's a great mind. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Frame on 8 podcast. This is your boy Simbawe Nibaye Jr., aka TK, and we are ending our Women's Entrepreneurial series today. I am riding solo again as Omar and Denise have off again this week. Mind you, they'll be back again next month. We started out with them at the beginning of the month. They've been off the past few weeks. We'll be back next month as we begin our regularly scheduled podcast. And I'm here again with another special guest. But before we do that, it is Affirmation Wednesday. And you guys know how we do. We get our affirmations in and out the way because we want to get our day started right. So if you got your affirmations with you, or if you have them written down or memorized, let's get this started because we want to get this up and rolling. Are you ready? Here we go. Today will be a good day. Today will be a great day. Today will be an awesome day. Today will be an amazing day. Today will be a phenomenal day. Today will be stress-free. Today will be a stress-less day. Today I will overcome all barriers that want to block my progress. Today, all circumstances and issues and situations will line up and work in my favor. I will become better than who I was yesterday. I am a go-getter. I am victorious. I am triumphant. I am an overcomer. I never lose. I either win or I learn. I take authority over this day. I will dominate this day. I will conquer this day. And everything I have spoken into this day will happen as I have affirmed, because I am more than a conqueror. Let's get started. So again, we are ending our Women's Entrepreneurial series today, and we have a special guest who's with us today, as known as Miss Kim Reynolds. I'm going to read her bio really quick, and then we're going to introduce her to the show. So Kim Reynolds is the proud owner of Peaceful Journeys Counseling LLC, a client-centered agency that assists individuals and their families navigate through life. Kim is the lead clinician, counseling patients with such concerns as depression, bipolar disorder, anxiety, adjustment disorders, anger management, and bereavement. Prior to starting her own practice, she worked as a therapist at Dean Aman and Associates for 6 years. In September of 2022, Kim became internationally credentialed in Santre therapy. She became a licensed clinical therapist in 2001, as she has been providing counseling services in the field for over 20 years. She received her master's in social work degree from Delaware State University in 1995 and her BA from the University of Delaware in 1991. When Kim is not working, she enjoys spending time with her husband, her 2 grown children, and her 2 dogs. She loves traveling and spending time at the beach any chance she can get. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Frame on 8 podcast, Miss Kim Reynolds. Welcome, Kim, to the show.
Thank you. Hello.
So for those of you out there who may not understand or know, Delaware State University and University of Delaware are 2 different colleges. So I did not misspeak, or I didn't, say the wrong thing. There are 2 different colleges, so you guys know. So Kim, let's just get right started and jump right into this. So
Sure.
Just give our listeners and viewers some background just on, who you are, where you came from, and where you kind of gotten to in life thus far.
Absolutely. I grew up in central New Jersey in Piscataway.
Jersey.
Yes. And then I came down to the University of Delaware, and originally was planning on becoming an accountant. But God had other plans for me because accounting was not in my future at all, ever. So while I was studying, I just started to realize that people were drawn to me to tell me their stories, to tell me their interests, to tell me their problems. And when I was taking a sociology class at the University of Delaware, I, learned a little bit more about social work and ended up studying sociology and social welfare. And that was my concentration in undergraduate school.
Okay.
And from there, I worked at Division of Family Services after I graduated. And that just opened my eyes to a whole new world that I had not been exposed to in childhood. And so I realized that, there were a lot more needs out there. So from there, I decided I wanted to further my education and went to graduate school at Delaware State University and received my master's in social work. And that was with a family and children's concentration. And from there, I started working at Christiana Hospital, worked there in the newborn ICU and worked with family and children and mothers there and all the families involved. And then I went and worked in some high schools after that. That was quite interesting in the wellness centers and loved that too. But then after that, I ended up being called to some private practices. I went first in Dover for several years and then to Newark. And as I was there, I, just enjoyed working with individuals, families, groups, and over time decided, I think I want to get my own practice. But it really wasn't in the forefront of my brain until the past few years. And over the past few years, it just started to come up more and more and more that I really was driven to get my own practice. And I was drawn to sand tray therapy, which is not very well known in Delaware, but it is internationally known. And so once I got my international credentials, then I said, I'm going to just, go out on my own. And then last year from January to June, made a plan and became an owner of my own practice, Peaceful Journeys.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, thank you for giving us that elaborate background on you. And we're going to start with sand tray therapy because I'm pretty sure there are a number of people out there who don't know what sand tray therapy is. I know I didn't know what it was until I spoke to you about it. And I'm like, what is sand tray therapy and what all does that involve when it comes to being a therapist or counselor?
Absolutely. So sand tray therapy is a tool that clients can use in order to process all their feelings in the tray. It's a nonverbal tool where they can use miniatures in the tray, and it's a visual sand. It's an actual sand tray, and they pick miniatures and they put them in the tray to tell their story. And you utilize your left side of your brain and your right side of your brain. The left side of the brain is logical. The right side of the brain is your emotional side, and the sand tray connects the two in between. And it's just a wonderful thing for people to process all of the things you listed before: depression, anxiety, anger, family issues come out in the tray. And then it's a visual of their story.
Wow, that's really cool. So do you find it more difficult for men to use the tray than you do women?
Absolutely not.
Really?
You would think so, but I have several men that when they first come in, they look around and they say, like, they think it's for children. And then once I get them to use it, they really like it. And I thought so at first, but it's not the case. And I've had several men that have made a lot of progress.
So my next question will be the follow-up. So I know that there are, me working with youth and mentoring, I noticed that there are a lot of youth out there that like to deal with quote unquote gadgets or fidgets to kind of keep them, occupied or something. That kind of, it's like a sensory thing.
Yes.
Do you find that the sand tray can also be used as a sensory device or something to kind of help, the individual cope or even open up about what they're talking about.
Absolutely. So the sand itself can be a grounding tool for people. So without even having to build a tray, sometimes people come in and they just put their hands in the tray. And it's a relaxation tool for people to just kind of have their hands busy, like a sensory tool while they're talking. It kind of regulates people, helps them calm down. I have other fidget toys in there as well for people to use. And there are some people with sensory issues that don't like the sand at all, but a lot of people really do like the sand. And before they even have to build a tray, they can use it just to ground.
Got you. Now, does this work both virtually and in person, or does it only work in person?
It does. When we were busy over the pandemic being virtual, there are virtual sand tray platforms.
Wow.
So we can use the virtual sand tray platforms. And now that I'm mostly in office, there's a few patients that haven't felt comfortable coming into the office, or they just don't have the transportation. And so I can also have them choose some of the miniatures on their own. And then I ask them where they want me to place them in the tray.
Mhm.
And so I can use that tool also, or a virtual, the virtual platform.
So how does the virtual platform work?
There's an app, and so there's all kinds of figures on there, and the person picks which ones they want. They build their tray, and then we discuss it. So it's really kind of neat to see. It's just that they're not hands-on.
Wow, there is an app for like everything, literally.
Yes, there is.
That's really cool. So let's jump a little bit to your educational background.
Sure.
So I know we talked about that you went to University of Delaware in 1991. You
Yes.
got your bachelor's degree there, and then it says that you went to Delaware State University and you got your master's in social work degree. Now, for those of us out there, University of Delaware is your general, education school where anybody can go. Now, Delaware State University is a historically Black HBCU college, correct?
Yes.
So tell me about that experience, because, you're going from University of Delaware, where it's just, general ed, everyone goes to
Right.
an HBCU, and you weren't doing it virtually, you were on campus.
Correct.
So tell us how that experience was, and then how you decided to go from UD, as they say, to Delaware State University to get your master's.
Well, it's twofold. One, first of all, Delaware State University had the program I needed, which was the master's in social work. University of Delaware did not. However, I grew up in Piscataway, which was very multicultural.
Yes.
When I came to University of Delaware, although it didn't appear to be at that time frame. So it wasn't a very difficult thing to go to Del State, because I actually felt very comfortable based on the high school that I grew up in. So it was totally, to me, it was fine. I didn't feel out of place. I felt comfortable. I enjoyed it. The difference was it was actually smaller, which I liked, because those classes were smaller. The campus was smaller. I liked it a lot.
Got you. So just FYI for our listeners, both me and Kim are from Jersey. That's why I'm very excited. So, and again, I always say, if you are not from Jersey and you say, hey, I'm from New Jersey. No. You happen to move and live there.
Right.
When you're from New Jersey, you say, I'm from Jersey. That's what you say. Okay. So we have a little history there, being from the same state. So that's awesome. That's great to hear. The one thing I do want to ask you is that I know you say you like spending time with your husband and your children. What kind of role do they play in your now that you own your own business? Do they play a role? What was the support like? Kind of enlighten us with that.
Absolutely. Actually, my husband, Gene, is a huge supporter with my business, and probably wouldn't be able to be successful without him, because he's like my biggest cheerleader. He's helped a ton with just behind the scenes things. And he He comes to the office, runs errands, comes to the office and cleans it. He's just been there by my side through everything. He's been the biggest supporter ever. And so yeah, I wouldn't be able to do the whole practice without him. And then my boys, my young men, I call them boys, but they're young men. They're in their 20s. They right now aren't really as supportive, but they did help me move into the office. They actually were the first ones to see the office, and I really was excited for them to see it and help me move in. And the thing that felt so special to me was when they helped me move in, they said, "Mom, this seems like home. This seems like a really peaceful place." And that meant a lot to me because they were the first ones to see it and help me set it up. And so then I felt comfortable, like this is going to be really good for my patients.
Gotcha. Now, did that help you name the business?
It did not. Actually, what I did was I had about 4 or 5 different names, and I took a poll from some of my patients that I was currently seeing and my family members. And so the name was a journey it's in itself, and it was I named it based on the most amount of people that voted for it.
Gotcha. Okay. It seems that the name kind of fit before people even said it, with your son saying it felt peaceful. It felt like at this. So that was really cool. That's awesome.
It did. The name actually came before I found the location. And then when I found the location, it was just like, yes, it all fit.
It all fit. There you go. I just love when that happens. Everything just kind of fits all together.
Yes.
Well, look, we're going to take a little break. We're going to come back. When we come back, we're going to talk about some of Kim's struggles, because as I've always said, we always know that, good stories, they talk about, trials and tribulations, but great stories talk about the struggles that we had to go through, and not just the struggles, but how we also overcame them and got through them. So we'll take a quick break and we'll come back and we'll talk about those things when we come back. Frame of Mind Podcast. Be right back. Are you looking for an apparel company that's positive, uplifting, and truly cares about you? Then look no further. Frame of Mind Inc., an apparel brand company, impresses on individuals to think positive thoughts, say positive things, and do positive deeds. Get positive apparel such as t-shirts, hoodies, and wristbands for children, teens, and adults in various colors and sizes. Customized services include logo and t-shirt design, screen printing, and embroidery for individuals, families, schools, profit, and nonprofit organizations. You can reach Frame of Mind Inc. at 302-689-3499 or visit their website at www.frameofmindinc.com. Frame of Mind Inc. Think it, speak it, achieve it. All right, we are back with the second half here with Kim Reynolds. And before we left, we were talking about just her background and where she comes from Jersey, Piscataway, but specifically a little more further north. Talked about how things got started with her company, Peaceful Journeys Counseling, and things of that nature. But now we're going to talk about some struggles that Kim had along the way, whether they happened in her younger age, as a teenager, as an adult, or even, but specifically the struggles she has or had when she was going from working in a corporate job and just starting her own business. So Kim, just give us some insight on some of the struggles that you had, business-wise and even some personal-wise as well.
Whew, there's a lot. There's a lot, but I'm going to keep it short. So yeah, life's been challenging over the past 10, 15 years.
Okay.
There's been a lot, but we've gotten through with the grace of God, actually. But I'm trying to think how to start. I'm just going to name a few little ones, but when I'm thinking, what comes to mind first is when I was working at the high school. It was earlier in my career. It was very difficult because I just wanted to bring a lot of the kids home. And I couldn't, I was working at Mount Pleasant High School, and the kids, came from some areas that weren't so good. And some of the kids would say, they had to choose either being, on the streets and selling drugs, or um, trying to play a sport. And some of them weren't accepted to play the sport. So then they were like, they would actually say they were wearing gang colors and stuff. So I'd be like, oh, I just want to rescue this kid, and I couldn't. But what I thought was pretty unique was that they would come and talk about it, and they would try to come up with solutions. And so, these things were hard because I had to figure out how to not take it home with me, and how to not, carry all their weight with me.
Yeah.
It took a lot of time to be able to do that with all the stories I hear all the time and all the challenges I hear all the time.
Wow.
So, that's been challenging. It can lead to some depression sometimes. It could lead to some anxiety sometimes. And then I have to keep myself strong to not allow that to, pull me down.
Right. Right. So talk about some of your struggles entering entrepreneurship.
Yes.
As going from, again, your quote unquote corporate job, and then saying, oh, I have my own business now. And then you went kind of maybe from security,
Yes.
kind of, almost like an anxiety, like, okay, how's this all going to work out? Am
Yes.
I going to have enough of this? And, what's the money going to be like? Talk about those.
That really has been the biggest challenge. That's the reason for the longest time why I didn't go into private practice, because there was a guaranteed check at the other program. All I had to do was show up and do counseling. There was no need to pay for rent. There was no need to pay for programs, so that's the reason why I didn't do it for so long. So at first it was difficult to find a space. And so we really had to, figure out how to find the right space. Found the right space, and then it was the insurance companies is a big challenge. A lot of my colleagues around the country, they only take private pay. But the patients that I was seeing previously, and even in the area that we our service, it's people want to use their mental health insurance. So I had to get on board with insurance companies, and I've been anxiously waiting for the payments to come through. So, it's just trusting that that's going to happen. But yes, I did go from guaranteed pay to no pay. But when I first went to the first agency in Dover, I didn't know what my pay was going to be. I just went because I felt like I needed to go there. And there were several months before I got paid. So it wouldn't be the first time.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I think for a lot of people who have their own business, that's like the number one thing is, okay, where's the money going to come from?
Right.
And not just for you to get paid to be able to live life, but if you again are getting a space, how are we going to pay the bills? How are we going to pay electricity? How are we going to pay for the space?
Right.
Is there going to be enough, insurance to cover X, Y, Z, and a whole bunch of factors that go on, when you're doing that. Now, for people like me that I've talked to, like I have a home-based business, but again, you're still looking like, well, at the same time, me and my wife, we still do work, but at the same time, it's like, hey, we are building something.
Right.
Now that it's kind of like, okay, how are we going to continue to build this and do what we do at the same time while taking care of a family,
yes,
and running all the things that we do? And so all those things come into place. But I tell people all the time, for me, my life is my business, and my business is my life. And I'm like, my family is entangled in everything. And so I enjoy the journey that we're on. And it's not always easy, but I think when you have people who are in your corner, who have your best interests at heart, it helps you kind of keep going with those things. And I think our families are important in that aspect, because we're doing it not necessarily for them, but they're kind of doing it with us.
Absolutely.
And so that's really important. I do want to ask this question here, because you mentioned that you love spending time with your husband, spending time with the 2 grown boys, but then there's also 2 dogs.
Yes.
And I normally don't ask these questions, but I figured, you know what, let's ask about the dogs because, I've had dogs when I was younger, when growing up in my family's house, and I know that dogs play a huge part in our lives from a pet standpoint. So talk about your dogs a little bit.
My dogs. I love my doggies. I have two wonderful pit bulls that before we got them, I researched and found out that pit bulls used to be America's therapy dog. And
Mm,
they used to actually be used for that purpose. And they were America's dog. So I was very skeptical at first to get them. But then once I got them, I just love them. So my Piper and my Stormy are my other additional family members. And they originally were my children's, but they, became ours and we love them. And I wish I could take them to work, but I can't. So
yes.
not
And
everybody's going to like them. So
And that was my next question. I'm like, so do you use the dogs as part of the therapy? But I guess we don't. So
I probably could. There are other therapists that do,
mhm.
but I think it would just be a little bit too much with all the sand tray items, as well as if I brought the dog in. Like, I know it is very therapeutic sometimes for pets, and I do prescribe like emotional support animals for some people,
Mhm.
but I think it would just be a little too distracting to have the dog and all the sand tray items.
Well, I would say too. I mean, if you look at a number of hospitals, sometimes they bring pets in,
Yes.
particularly for children, but they do it for adults as well. So
Yes.
I kind of see now where that could play a very big factor in therapy and counseling. So
Yes.
that's
Definitely.
really interesting to see. Um, Last question before we kind of go to the end of this. This is for the married couples who are out there, whether you are planning on getting married, you are already married, or you're just looking at that longevity piece of it. First question is, how long have you and Jean been married?
Yes, in August, it will be 30 years.
Wow.
So, yes, we're very excited to celebrate 30 years of marriage.
30 years in August. Write that down, people. 30 years. That's some of you. That's your goal. That's my goal. I haven't even gotten to 20 yet. So I still
Yes,
got, I've got this July, it'll be 4 more years for us. So it'll be 16. So we'll be getting closer
nice.
to 20.
Well,
So
congratulations to you as well.
thank you. And then the second question is, um, tell some of the people out there how it is, being number one, not just a wife, but a mother.
Mhm.
And then also, of course, being a woman in business, and then going from that to being a woman entrepreneur who now is running her own business. Speak on that.
It's a lot to have all the different hats to wear, but I think that if it's something that you want to do, you just need to make it happen. Um, with the right supports and the right passion in place, it all can work out. It does sometimes seems a little bit difficult, but everything can fall into place if needed. When the kids were younger, that's when I got my master's degree, and then worked in different agencies, and we had some family supports that helped, and everything just falls into place how it's supposed to. It's been a lot, like after work, I'd have to juggle the boys to different sports activities. And now they're grown. So one doesn't live in our home and one does, but he can help out. But,
Mhm.
being an entrepreneur is just been like amazing. It's nice to be my own boss. I love it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, last thing, Kim, if you could leave our listening and viewing audience with any last bit of advice or expertise, what would that be? So, this is kind of like the floor is yours.
Okay.
Let us know what it is you want us to know. If we hear nothing else, what would
Right.
you want us to hear?
So sometimes people are very hesitant to go talk to a mental health provider. And I want you to know that it's the best thing you can do for yourself. If you feel the need that you want to talk to somebody about anything, whether it's just adjustment issues, whether it's marriage issues, whether it's I feel a little down or anxious, the whole goal of a mental health therapist is to have a non-judgmental, non-biased person to talk to and truly That's the goal. So anybody that has any concerns and has been hesitant, feel free to contact my agency, any other counseling agency. And if things are really, really bad, and sometimes, people feel like they want to harm themselves, 988 is the National Suicide Hotline. So please, please, please talk to somebody.
And before we go, just let everyone know how they can get in contact with you, whether it's a website, phone number, email, however they can contact you, even if it's social media, whatever you have. And we'll make sure that all the information is in the podcast notes as well. But let them know now in case someone has a pen and paper and they want to write it down.
Sure. We're Peaceful Journeys Counseling, and the number is 302-861-6661. And we are also www.peacefuljourneyssantre.com.
Awesome. Good stuff. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Kim, for joining us today and dropping all that wonderful knowledge, and for joining us and for ending out our Women's Entrepreneurial Series this year in the month of May. Thank you for joining us, and we will talk to you again soon.
Sounds good. You're welcome. Take care.
Awesome. So everybody, until next week, before we go, I want to remind you guys that we'll be back in the month of June. When we come back in June, we'll be doing some more of our other podcasts. We're going to have actually a parenting podcast for the month of June, so you want to stick around for that. Omar and Denise will be back as well, and we're going to have a great summer. We got a great summer lineup for you guys, so make sure you guys tune in for the summer sessions that we're going to have Wednesday mornings at 7 a.m. Continue to think it, speak it, and achieve it. And until next week, holla. Thank you for joining the Frame of Mind Inc. podcast. And as always, here at Frame of Mind Inc., think positive thoughts, say positive things, and do positive deeds. As our tagline says, think it, speak it, achieve it. See you next time. Don't forget to check us out on the web at www.frameofmindinc.com, where you can browse our online apparel store, listen to some of our original music and production services, as well as view our videos and projects we've done for our clients and customers.